Welcome to Where I'm From, the podcast that proves that no matter how far you go, you'll always keep a little piece of home with you. I'm Bill Meeks. Welcome back for part 2 of our interview with Dave Theune, who you might know from shows like I Am Not Okay With This, Good Girls, or the new Night Court, which he was just on last week. Last episode, we talked about Dave's past in Cedar Grove. This week, we'll be focusing more on Milwaukee and his transition into a Hollywood career.
You're off rhythm. From now on, you're just mouthing.
All right, let's talk to Dave. We're going to do another game. This is called What If It Happened Here? Now, Dave, you've been in a zillion TV shows and movies. So in this game, I'll give you a film or TV project you've been involved with and challenge you to tell me how it would be different if it took place in Cedar Grove. Make sense?
Let's hear it. Yep.
Okay, first up, Good Girls.
Good Girls. If it took place in Cedar Grove, when I grew up, there are far less places to rob. They have very few options, so they're going to burn through it really quickly. They have one street in which to rob from. That is Main Street, because that is where all the businesses were. And we'd all know them, and we'd all know their business because word travels fast in a small town. They would be caught within a week, but the punishment, pretty light. It'd be pretty light. We'd probably forgive them. We'd always know what they did, and that would always be held over their head, but they'd probably be able to continue pretty easily in the town.
So suburban moms get a pass in Cedar Grove. Good to know. Good to know for any aspiring criminals out there. Go to Cedar Grove. Okay, The Big Bang Theory.
Big Bang Theory. They'd be commuting for their job because they're all like what, physicists or chemists or whatever they are. They're
not
super
astronomists,
smart.
Not astrologists.
Astronomists. Yeah. Either way, wouldn't fit in Cedar Grove. Neither one. Their apartments would not look as cool, quirky and whatnot. They'd be way more boxy and plain. They'd have already gotten married. They've all gotten married way sooner, and they'd all have kids way before season 12.
Yeah, I love this idea, though. Like, it could be like someone who had a proclivity for science and they never got out of Cedar Grove. So they're like, I don't know, like a bartender or something in town. And they're always like, man, like physics, like I can do physics. I can really do. No, you don't believe me.
What could have been?
Okay, The Connors.
The Connors, probably pretty accurate. Probably pretty close to what it was. They're a pretty normal family. Then they, I think, same. They're doing great, except they'd have been cheering for the Packers and not the Bears.
All right, Santa Clarita Diet.
Santa Clarita Diet. Oh, my gosh. Before I explain, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this about all of these shows that you're talking about. I have, if we wanted to go into, we don't have time, I could go into how nice, the whole cast, all the cast, nice. And minimal, professional. But always at least one person on the cast who is like, really nice and really talkative. When you're a co-star or guest star in a show, you don't know the people as well. It's like any other thing in life where it's like you don't know the person, you don't talk to them as much. That's anywhere else in life. Same on TV. But there'd always be someone that was like nicer and like be warmer and whatever. And with Santa Clarita Diet, that's Drew Barrymore's in that show. She came up to me and my co-star, who was also with me, or guest star, whatever our title was at that point, and like introduced herself. It's like, hi, I'm Drew. And whatever you think she is, like however nice you think she is by her, like her persona that we see on TV and movies, accurate. She was so nice. She was so sweet. She took the time. She talked with us for a while, was laughing, and was just like awesome. She was awesome. They're all awesome. She was awesome. The Santa Clarita Diet took place in Cedar Grove. I think we'd be happy because it's a meat-eating town. We love beef. we love red meat. So there's probably something that would appeal to us there. I think it would work well. It'd work well.
There's probably one or two people running around as nice as Drew Barrymore, I'm sure.
Absolutely. You kidding me? Got that Midwest nice thing going on for sure. Absolutely.
Okay. This is a little bit of a weird one, but I threw it in here because my son, London, is obsessed with this show. Adam Ruins Everything. If it was locked into Cedar Grove.
Adam Ruins Everything. Yeah. If it was locked into Cedar Grove, I worry that we would be mad at all of the truths he's uncovering about the way he operates, because he's also a little bit left leaning, and he would have to skew toward the right a little bit more conservative, Adam, please. And we'd have to also PG it up, because that gets a little bit it gets a little lewd and crude on that show, and I've been in those episodes, so we'd have to clean it up. It'd be a PG show for sure. And
if not, Cedar Grove will ruin Adam. So
we're taking him down.
So this one I pulled. I didn't look for any information on the production at all, but it was a very interesting title. You might not even remember it. Teenage Mountain Lion.
Teenage Mountain Lion. You kidding me? Absolutely, I remember Teenage Mountain Lion. My friend Ali Gondor, who's on my improv team at UCB called Bangarang, is part of that group. They're not called Teenage Mountain Lion, and now their name of their group is escaping me. The Waitlist. I was a principal in that show, and we don't have any mountain lions. We'd have to change it to. I don't think we have any mountain lions. Certainly no Teenage Mountain Lions. If it was taking place in Cedar Grove, that would definitely have to be a deer, a white-tailed deer. He turns into a white-tailed deer, and then we'd hunt him. And but I will say about that show, I remember when I was doing that. It's a short-lived little related to the internet show, but Hulu at the time, Hulu was new, and Hulu was going to be airing it. And I remember them telling me that. And I remember a couple things. One, I thought they were so nice and funny, and they were younger than me. They still are younger than me. But they were just like college, just out of college. And so I just remember thinking, because I was in my early 30s, I was like, these young guys are getting after it. This is unbelievable. I'm so excited about their tenacity and creativity, and probably a little jealous too. But they would ask me to be a part of things, and I was so grateful to be a part of it. And I would always be like, I'm so thankful these funny people are asking me to be a part of this. I really love them. But that was early days of Hulu, and they would air it. And at the time, I was like, this is it. You guys are. Hulu's this new thing. You're going to be stars and millionaires. And I thought, because you're going to be a TV show on this new streaming platform. We didn't really understand what streaming was at that point, I don't think.
Yeah.
At least I didn't. That isn't what happened. But they're all doing great. It was so exciting to me.
It's very interesting to hear about that time in the industry versus this time, where, a lot of streaming services are falling off, and, it's still not a settled ground at all.
It's still a little bit Wild West, but certainly in back then, which was 2010, 2011, it was truly it really was Wild West, and who knew what would happen where, but it was crazy.
One last one here. Bear with me, audience. I'm going to be saying a lot of letters. NTSF, SD, SVU. I believe it's an Adult Swim show, right?
It's an Adult Swim show. It's a crazy show, but it's super funny. Paul Scheer's a big part of that, obviously. I'm going to tell a little bit of story about that one too. If that show took place in, I don't know, the city would burn. The town would burn down because it'd be too much mayhem. It'd be too insane. There would never be that many crimes. There would never be that many crazy things going on in that town. They'd have to be solving way more crimes of people putting firecrackers in mailboxes and stuff like that. That would be as insane as it would get, at least when I grew up. This is a story I'm going to tell. Now I can't think of his name. It escapes me every single time. He had a bit of a comeback. You might know this guy. If I explain the name. He had a comeback. He was in Jackie Brown. He was the bail bondsman.
Yeah, Robert something.
Robert Forster.
Robert Forster. He was in Breaking Bad too. Yeah.
Yeah, you got it. So Robert Forster, he's on this episode. All right. And I don't do well in this episode. I did not have my lines down very well. I thought I did, but the one thing you have to do as an actor, you got to have your lines down, the basic thing. You should also understand the story and stuff like that, but you got to know what these stinking words are. And so I'd practice it at home, and it was a big chunk for me, big chunk of dialogue. But I practiced it at home, but I didn't practice it with anyone. So I was just saying it to myself, or I was just saying it to myself. So I never heard another human say it. I never heard another human say their lines, or me have to respond to them saying their lines. And that threw me off big time. I was a newer actor at that point. I forget what year that was. I should have known my lines better than that. But I didn't know how to do it well. But I was cheap. I was cheap talent at that point. And I had probably had some kind of hey, this guy might be okay. Because I was also UCB, and they knew me through UCB. which is where I did a lot of improv, and so did they. So I didn't do great, and I was pretty down on myself. I think my scene was with Brett Gelman. He's so funny, and he was like destroying it, of course. And we had to like do it over and over again. I'm just like battling, and I am sweating bullets, and I'm embarrassed because like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't deserve to be here or whatever. They're all, June, Diane, Raphael, and Paul Shear are still so kind to me. They're being so nice about it. It's unbelievable. They're so nice. It's really, truly, they were godsends. Anyways, I'm sitting next. I got time between whatever we're doing, right? And Robert Forster's in the episode, and he also has time. So we're just like sitting in this, I forget what lot we're on, but it's like, let's say Universal or Paramount or somewhere. And so it's like a fake city lot. Mm-hmm. But we're like sitting on a park bench on this fake street in the middle of nowhere. And Robert, I'm feeling down or whatever. So I'm just like looking to have someone take any of this, get me to think about anything else. Anyways, so I asked Robert, I'm like, hey, because I knew him for Jackie Brown and stuff. I'm like, hey, what was it like when you first started? Because I was also starting. I was like, what was it like in the beginning? Like, do you remember what your first job was and where you were and where you're coming from? And so he told me like where he came from and what his first gigs were like when he first got to LA and what he was doing. I wish I could remember these details now. But I was like mesmerized. He was just like so kind and just like letting me sit and listen. And he knew I was probably struggling a little bit. And he was like offering words of encouragement. He's like very nice about it. But he just like told me about his journey. And he's like, I didn't work for years. You know, like Jackie Brown really like was the thing that like picked him back up. But he was like talking about the downward part of it, which is like so interesting to me. And he's telling me those parts of it. And I was just enthralled by him. And he was so kind. And then he's like, hey, I have a little gift for you. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so nice. You don't have to do that. And he's like, it's in my trailer. There's a duffel bag in my trailer, and there's going to be a bunch of little boxes in there. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going inside your trailer. In there. What are you kidding me? It's insane. He's like, no, it's fine. Go. I was like, I don't want to do that. But he's like, no, do that. Remember. And he like asked me a couple of times, like, okay, I'll go. And so after I was done, mercifully done with my day, I went, and in my trailer, there was like a little letter from like June and Paul, and they're like, so glad to have you, so thankful to have you here. And they were so nice. But I went into Robert Forster's trailer by myself, and I felt insane. But he had a duffel bag in there, and I'm like rooting through his stuff. I'm like, if anyone comes in here, I don't know what to tell them. But he had a bag with like a bunch of little boxes in it, and I grabbed one, I took it, and it was this like stainless steel letter opener. And he had a bunch of them. And I've talked to other people who also have these from him. And he would give them out. He would just give them out to people on set. He's like, I give them out to everyone on set, or like maybe all the cast. And because I was part of the cast that day, I got this silver letter opener, or a stainless steel, or whatever you want to call this thing, aluminum.
Wow.
And I think about him all the time when I got this, and being in his trailer by myself.
Do you think he just bought like gross of letter openers? Or wow,
100%. Absolutely, because there's no engraving or anything on it. They're just plain. Yeah. But I bet we all have them.
Wow. A Robert Forster letter opener.
Yeah.
What if it happened here?
Thanks to that exclusive, I'd like to say you've won the game. I mean, it was stiff competition.
Yes.
But you win.
Did I beat Tobolowky?
You did beat Tobolowky. Absolutely. Because he's not here to defend his crown. So you absolutely beat Tobolowky.
And he never will be.
And Dave, you're going to love your prize.
Oh.
Your prize is an ad read that we're going to cut to right now. And then we'll be back to talk more with Dave about all sorts of stuff.
What a pot of gold.
Where I'm From is brought to you by Streann Studio. That's STREANN Studio, the web app that puts you in charge of the live show. Streann Studio allows you to take your streaming game to the next level by allowing you to stream to multiple platforms at once. If you want to go to Twitch, if you want to go to YouTube, you can stream to all of those platforms at once, get feedback from your audience, and most importantly, it puts you in control of the show. Now, Streann Studio has several packages that work for just about any type of broadcaster. From the free plan, where you can stream with a watermark, all the way up to the gold plan, where you can have up to 8 guests. You can stream to as many social platforms as you want. You can get a web link to share your show with external audiences, and you can even get an iframe so you can embed your live stream show directly into your website. Hey, I love Streann Studio so much, I'm using it to produce this show. I want to thank Streann Studio for supporting Where I'm From, and you can give this fantastic software a spin and support Where I'm From at the same time. Just head over to our website at billmeeks.com/whereimfrom and click on the Streann Studio banner so they know we sent you their way. And we want to thank Streann Studio for sponsoring Where I'm From. Go check it out. Great service. Dave, let's talk some Milwaukee.
Yeah, Milwaukee's the best.
So what were the college years like in Milwaukee for Dave?
College years were 3 years. I was a 5-year. I had that super senior status. I loved it. I'll be honest. A bunch of my friends from high school also transferred, were either at Milwaukee or transferred to Milwaukee the same year I did. So my college friends were, a lot of them, most of them, same as my high school friends. The people I hung out with some people definitely that were not from where I'm from, but I hung out with a lot of people that were from my school in Cedar Grove, or they were in the same conference that Cedar Grove played sports in. So did I get to a bigger city? Absolutely. Did I hang out with the same small town people? Absolutely. And I loved it. It was great.
I'll say my college was kind of similar in that I went to college. I ended up going to college when I left UCLA, probably 40 minutes from my high school. So there was a lot of crossover. Did you notice that, relationships changed between high school and college? Because a lot of the people who were like my mortal enemies in high school, when we got to college, they were cool. I'd go to their dorm room. We'd smoke weed together, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I don't know if I had any like real mortal enemies in high school. I think I was somewhat affable, but I definitely got closer with some of them than I was. People who were just like more acquaintances got closer. Although really the people that I gravitated toward in college were honestly the same people that I'd gravitated toward in high school. So we were all kind of remained close. Truly, I have I'm in such a good position where I have lifelong friends that were with me in high school and college and afterwards. So I got to have shared experiences with a lot of close people that we can always talk about and go back on. So whenever I go home, I get to see people that I know and have loved for so long and have lots of experiences with. I loved college. I loved Milwaukee.
It's quiz time.
What do we have?
I'm looking for a quality flavor. What do you have? I'm looking for a smooth, rich flavor. What do you have? I've got to have traditional flavor, the kind you only find in a Pabst Blue Ribbon. What do you have?
Milwaukee is known for beer and breweries and stuff. I was wondering, do you have any anecdotes or stories about the beer or breweries in Milwaukee?
I'll tell a couple things about Milwaukee beer, Milwaukee breweries, some things that maybe you could do and I think that are fun. One, if you're ever in Milwaukee, do the Miller tour. Do the Miller tour. It's a macro brewery, obviously, but it's a good one. And they have these catacombs that you get to go through a little bit of that are super old that they used to use more. Now they're just for tour purposes or whatnot. But they used to do it for storing whatever they're storing down there because it's cold down there. Another thing I think is fun is I don't know if they still do it. I'm hoping they still do it. But I did this years ago. Let's say around Halloween, that area, fall, let's say. A group of people would do this beer baron cemetery tour. So you would meet at this bar that has the oldest operating bowling alley in Wisconsin, if not the U.S. It's super old. And it's got 2 lanes. It's still at hand. You have to put the pins up by hand or whatever. But you'd start there. You'd have a beer or whatever. And then they'd take you to this big cemetery. And this big cemetery is where a lot of the beer barons are buried. Miller is not. but like Schlitz is there, which is a big one. Blatz is there, which is a big one, at least in Wisconsin-Milwaukee it is. And there's a few other like notable beer barons is what they call them.
Yeah.
And you could do a tour and they talk about the history of beer in Wisconsin, beer in Milwaukee. And at one point you go past, I think it's Schlitz, and it's like a big burial tomb or whatever. Because like his whole family's in there or whatever.
Yeah. Are they buried in beer barrels?
Big beer barrels. They threw them and then they tossed them down Niagara Falls, and then they buried them in Milwaukee. It was really fun.
The sludge that's left.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, disgusting. So then, but they're in this tour. You'll get to like a guy will come out dressed as like Joseph Schlitz, and he'll come from behind the thing, and he'll like be him, and he'll give you a little like story about my family started Schlitz Brewery, and so you get to like listen to this thing, and it's so fun, and it's really great. It's totally worth it. There's also just like a bunch of old breweries. These aren't like great stories, I realize, but like if you're ever in Milwaukee, go do these things. Go to Von Trier. It's this old German bar. There's so many old bars in Milwaukee. There's so many bars. There's so many bars in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin. It's so concentrated. Go to a bunch of these old historic bars that I think are gorgeous. And and they're super fun and worth going to. But definitely do some of these brewery tours. Go to Lakefront. It's a great one. Go to Sprecher. Sprecher is an awesome beer tour, and you get to drink at all these. And one of them, you could do a thing where you get on a boat. It goes down the Milwaukee River, and it stops at various breweries, Rock Bottom Brewery, Lakefront Brewery, and like two others. And you just get on the boat and you go down the river and you stop at another brewery. You go through the tour. You drink more beer if that's your thing. And it's really fun. It's great.
It's like a party bus, but a boat.
It 100% is. It is like a party bus, but a boat.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Comedy Sports.
When improv works,
Right, I'll do it again. Boom, that just happened.
it looks easy. Milwaukee's ComedySportz has been making it look easy for 33 years.
So when I say clap, everybody clap.
All right. Well, we've talked drinking.
Yeah.
We've talked me messing up the ad read.
You did great.
Thank you very much, sir. Let's go ahead and get into one of your big concentrations, improv. You got your start in Milwaukee, right, at ComedySportz?
Yeah.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about how you kind of fell into improv and your experience there?
So the way that goes is I credit my sister Suzanne for that. So I'm in college and I still like funny stuff, and I'm a theater major, but I wasn't a theater major till my 5th year of college. So I'm truly like in name only. At the time, like LA acting was an actual possibility for me. That wasn't even on my radar. But I knew, I'm like, I just need a job. I need a degree of something so I can get an office job. And I was a communications major, but going into my 5th year, I'm like, I don't really care about communications that much. But I'm like, I like theater. I just need a degree. So I went to my advisor and he's like, you have a lot of credits. Let's get you out of here. So I switched my major to theater, but I didn't like do any plays. I did one community theater play in Random Lake for my friend Ryan Klug, who was putting on Josephine the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. And I was Ruben. But I was I was not a great singer, but I could do comedy or whatever. But I wasn't doing anything theater related. I was just like going to school. But my sister and I used to watch Whose Lines It Anyway, that short form improv show it would be on Comedy Central at the time, all the time. It was a British version at that time. And Colin Mockery and Ryan Stiles, and Greg Proops and all those guys. And we would watch it all the time. And I watched it all the time. And ComedySportz, when my senior year, we had a lock-in after the junior prom, my senior year. There's a lock-in after the prom. We'd all go to this place, and they lock you in for the night. The sports court in Kohler, Wisconsin. You could play like a bunch of sports. They had like fake gambling and entertainment and stuff like that. Or just so you wouldn't like go out and party all night. Gave kids a place to go. Yeah. And then probably keep people from having sex and stuff like that. So ComedySportz came to this lock-in. It's the first time I'd seen ComedySportz in person. It's a lot like Whose Lines It Anyway. And I got to like be one of the volunteers, and I wasn't funny, but they really helped me out. But that's the only time I saw it. So I was like, okay, I saw them. And then so years later, I'm in college, I'm in the 5th year, and my sister is like, hey, did you know ComedySportz is out here? They do classes. I was like, they do classes? No, I did not know that. She's like, they do. You should like do that. So I looked into it. I was like, I'll take a class. So I took a class because she noticed it. I never probably would have done it otherwise. And I liked it. And about a year and a half into it, I just graduated college. I'm at my first job at Northwestern Mutual. They asked me to start doing professional shows. So I'm 22, 23 at this point. I'm going to say 23. And I'm in Milwaukee, and I'm doing ComedySportz. ComedySportz started in like 84. It started in Milwaukee. Dick Chudnow, the owner, took ideas from theater sports, which is up in Canada, and turned it into a more competitive format. 2 teams and a referee, but it's all improv and jokes and games, stuff like that. And then it's since like spread throughout the U.S. There's one, and I don't know if there's one in L.A. anymore, but there was, and I did it. But they were all over the place: Ireland, the UK, Chicago, North Carolina, all these places, right? Whatever. But I started doing shows, and that was my beginning of doing improv. Was back in started classes in '99, and by 2001. Valentine's Day is, I say, my first professional show. Valentine's Day of 2001 is when I did my first professional show. And then I started doing it on my nights and weekends all the time, as much as I could possibly do it. I put my availability in every week, and I would do it as much as I could. I had a day job, but on my nights and weekends, they're eaten up by ComedySportz.
Just out of curiosity, and I don't think you'll be putting anyone out here because it's been years ago now. How much would a professional improviser in Milwaukee make for a show?
More than other cities.
More than other cities.
I'll
Really?
tell you what, I made more doing improv in Milwaukee than I've ever made in LA. In Milwaukee, and I'm sure it's changed now, there for like an in-house show, $25, $30 a show, something like that. Definitely worth my while. Definitely getting paychecks. And then we do remote shows for colleges or businesses, bar mitzvahs, Boy Scout troops, everything, church groups, everything.
That's where the real money is.
That's where the real money is. Now it'd be like anywhere between like $80 to $120 a show. And for a part-time job, making people laugh, it was awesome. There were guys, we did so many shows. I did a day job, so I didn't do all these shows. But we did so many shows, corporate shows, that some people were making a living off it. Is it a great living? No. But they were able to like pay the rent. One guy had a house. It was also cheaper back then. Everything was cheaper, but you could do it. They had a handful of guys that were just making it, work, at least getting by. But it was certainly a great part-time job compared to out here, where now it's different because we just started paying performers a little bit. But for years, unless I did a random corporate show, which were far and few between, one a year, maybe when I did ComedySportz and UCB, maybe there are other people doing more. I wasn't, but no in-house shows paid anything. And in fact, I was shelling out cash for coaches and for classes. I was losing money. It was like a civ parking. Like I was bleeding money, but there I was making money. So way more than anywhere else I'd ever been, and way more than most cities anywhere.
That's good to know. You aspiring improvisers out there, go to Milwaukee.
It's not a great living, but it's a great part-time job. And it was, I loved it with everything I had.
Let's wrap up by talking a little bit about your transition to Los Angeles. As we've discussed already, I've been out here a couple times myself. It's a big capital B decision.
Huge.
That can have big repercussions and completely reverse in a moment's notice. Why did you decide to move here? And tell me a little bit about like the moving story, the transition.
I lived in Milwaukee for about 12 years. I was doing improv for about 8 of those years. I also did a little bit of improv at IO, Improv Olympic in Chicago. Never lived there, but just would drive down there with my buddy Mike Kauth, and we would take classes, and then we got onto a team. But that was a struggle. The drive was long. I didn't know what I was doing. That was long from improv. I was dying. I wasn't funny to me. So I stopped doing it for a while and just kept doing ComedySportz because it was closer and they paid me and I felt good. So then in 2009, at the time I was married, and she and I decided to try something different and wanted to move out somewhere warm near the ocean. We talked about Hawaii before we were going to like move back to Wisconsin and start that life. But I wanted to know some people. I was already in my early 30s at this point, and I didn't know anyone in Hawaii. I knew some people in LA, and I wanted there to be some kind of entertainment. Didn't have to be the entertainment capital of the world or whatever, but I wanted there to be something where I could do some kind of comedy or whatever. So LA seemed warm, seemed tropical to me, and had palm trees from what I knew. I realize now it's not Hawaii at all, but certainly compared to for someone in southeastern Wisconsin, it feels a whole heck of a lot closer to Hawaii than let's say Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. I was also unhappy. I was unhappy with with what I was doing in Milwaukee. I didn't like my day job. I didn't like my life overall. I felt like I was just kind of wasting my life or whatever. That's too extreme. It wasn't that dire, but I wasn't having my day job, but I was doing improv and stuff like that. And I had friends and family and all that stuff that I loved, obviously.
Yeah.
But want to try something different. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know that I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what headshots were. I didn't know what auditions were. I didn't know that I would do any of that. I just knew that we're going to move to LA and see what that was like and maybe take some classes. My friend Eric Price, who's so funny, lives out here, used to do ComedySportz, and he was like the best of the best. He was living in LA, and I said, I'm going to move out. We're moving out. Where should I take classes? I didn't know. And I'd already done ComedySportz, and I did Improv Olympic, which was also out here at the time. And I'm like, I've already done those, so I don't need to do that right away. And he's like, well, take classes at UCB. Like, it's a hot place and people like it. So I was like, all right, I'll take classes there. So moved out here. And in the first 2 weeks, I started my 101 class at UCB. And also ended up doing ComedySportz out here as well, and Improv Olympic a lot, both those places quite a bit, especially Improv Olympic. But then started taking classes in 2009 at UCB. And by the end of 2009, I got onto an improv team because they have like auditions and whatnot. And then also got onto a sketch team at UCB and started doing it. I had the good fortune that I could kind of hit the ground running. My ex had a good job, and my company that I was working at in Wisconsin went under right before I moved out. So I got to collect unemployment from Wisconsin for like a year and a half. So I could really hit the ground running
and kind of really focus in on it. Yeah.
I'd focus in on it. So like when people sometimes would be like, hey, things worked out for you relatively quickly, and they did. But it's because I had these advantages that others didn't have. I had a ton of improv experience, a ton of it. And so I already knew a bit, even though I learned a ton. It was it was a huge learning curve still when I got out here. But I got to be in this small pond versus people who were coming out here in the biggest pond at the best comedy theaters and try to make it. It's hard, really hard. And I didn't have to have a day job to like keep me going right away. I got to like just really go after it. And I did. And it worked out. Enough balls bounced my way. I liked LA immediately, but enough balls bounced my way to keep me interested.
As the United Nations Secretary General, I introduced Resolution 326. What should we order for lunch?
And I got to start doing improv at UCB, and I was doing it at UCB at IO and at ComedySportz. So, and then all randomly all over town. I was doing comedy. I was doing improv. Here's the thing I tell people. When I did ComedySportz in Milwaukee, I did it as much as I could. I saw a ton of shows. I did as much as I could. When I took classes and did shows at Improv Olympic, I would drive down with my friend Mike. We'd take classes, and then we'd drive home. We'd do a show. We'd see the group of Forster after us, drive home, because I had a day job to get to. I never lived there, never got immersed in it. As a result, I didn't understand what the heck we were doing as long-form improv. I'd never done long-form improv. It was so different to me, and I never got good at it there because I wasn't there doing it. So when I got out here, I said, I'm going to do it as much as I can, as hard as I can. So I took as many classes as I could take. I saw as many shows as I could see. I did as many shows as I could see all the time. I did that for years. And it was a huge help in like, it's like the same thing as everything else. I realize there's a certain talent or whatever that improv has, or acting or whatever, but it's the same as any other job that you want anywhere in the world. You got to put the time in. You have to have some talent, but you got to put the time in. You got to be a person that people don't despise or get annoyed at immediately. Mm-hmm. You have to have the right attitude. You got to have the ability, and you got to have the attendance. You got to be showing up. It's like I tell people it's the 3 A's: attendance, ability, and attitude. You got to have those 3 things, or at least 2 of those 3 things really well to compensate for the third. But ideally you have 3 of them, and really 2 of them are fully in your control. The ability, somewhat in your control, but that will increase with the attendance and the attitude. So that's what I did a ton of when I got out here.
I will say, as someone who's met you through improv and has improvised with you and stuff, that is very apparent. Like, we had a lot of great people in our class, but I think immediately a lot of people in our class were just like, Dave's a good guy. And it was just like, you have this air about you. And I think you basically reverse engineered it for our audience and for me. So I'll take that to heart too, for sure.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. And with that, like a class like that, like for those of you who are like looking into getting an improv or whatever, or you're wondering about this stuff or comedy or acting or whatever it is, I've told people this. I've told our classmates this. I was doing improv for 20 years before I did that Groundlings class with you.
Mhm.
I did it a lot. Some of you, that was like your first class or your first place, like your first place that you chose to go. For some of you, not you, because you were doing a little bit in Orlando, but for some of these people, it's like they picked arguably one of the greatest comedy schools in the world, in one of the most competitive, in the biggest, like one of the biggest entertainment cities in the world, if not the biggest. And like, this is where they're starting. And that blows my mind. I would have died. I got to like really cut my teeth in a way more supportive, smaller environment, where people are just doing it for fun. There was no end game here versus the Groundlings, which is like, got to go through these classes, got to get on it, got it passed to get to the next level, got to get into Sunday Company, got to get it Groundlings so I can get on SNL or get on TV or get an agent or get a manager. Like none of that was a concern or a pressure where I started or where you started. So the fact that anyone is doing it and not falling apart completely, it's a big win for those people. Me.
Absolutely. Would you say that UCB has the same vibe where it's like, okay, it's go time. You got everyone's on, everyone's trying to move ahead, or is it a bit more relaxed or chummy?
Different. Yeah. Yes and no. Same and different. Same in that it is competitive. If you want to get on these teams, there's limited spots. It's like, I know it's like, it should be the supportive thing. And it is, but it's also like every other stinking job in the world. It's like every other thing where like, I want to be a part of this. Well, there's probably a limited number of seats. I want to work at that. I want to work at that Valvoline oil change thing. Well, they don't have 1,000 employees. They probably have a limited number. So, I mean, they have 1,000 worldwide or whatever, but like at this one, it's limited. So I've got to be good to be able to be accepted there, right? To get a job there, to get an interview there. Same thing at UCB, same thing at Groundlings. It's no different. And some of them are going to get it and some of them aren't. The difference is that UCB, you can kind of like take classes. Maybe this is different now. I'm not sure, but you can kind of take classes as long as you want. Versus Groundlings, at some point you get booted out. We don't think you're good enough. You're out of here. Yeah. Both of those hurt in different ways. You can feel like you're getting strung along at UCB or any of these other schools. This isn't just UCB dependent or specific. But you could feel like they're just stringing me along. They're just taking my money. Okay, maybe. Maybe that's the case. And you got to like make that decision. Like, how am I going to feel about this? What am I going to do? And again, it's not a perfect system. I'm not trying to defend UCB or the individual. Like, it's not a perfect system because these are human beings running this. Versus Groundlings, you can also be hurt by like, they kicked me out. They don't realize my potential. Like, and now I can't take classes anymore because I didn't pass this class twice for whatever reason. And now I'm out, right? Both of those things can hurt, or both those things can be good, because you could also look at it as, all right, they let me know I'm done, and now I can move on from this. And that also
like mentally
be
move on. Yeah.
Mentally move on. UCB has a way larger community because, well, now it's different because now we're back down to one stage. But for a while, we had two stages. We had a school, and most of the indie improv scene in Los Angeles is being run by UCB-related people. Versus Groundlings, that's just not the same. They're trying to change that a little bit. And UCB at the time, now it's different in the post-pandemic world, but UCB had really 3 stages running 7 nights a week, versus Groundlings, 1 stage running 4 nights a week. Yeah. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 nights a week, 4 nights a week, something along those lines, right? And only 30 Groundlings at a time. There's only 30 Groundlings at max. Yeah. So your odds of making it are so slim, which is so hard and can be so heartbreaking for so many people. Which I get, and I can definitely empathize, sympathize with them when people don't make it into the Sunday Company, get outed from the Sunday Company quickly, ousted, or don't get into UCB. But it's hard because it's supposed to be it's a supportive, learning, loving environment, But it's also like every other job, every other thing in the world, every other peer group, every other friend group, every other whatever group, where it's like, it's limited and not everyone's going to be a part of these things, and you got to find your group, and it's hard. That was a big speech about that stuff. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it was great. And I think that's one of the interesting dynamics of improv, where the only reason the art form works is because we're all supporting each other. But by the same token, on the professional side of the coin, we all also have to kind of be competing with each other.
You want to be noticed.
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I'm not going to say people are duplicitous or anything, because that would be completely wrong. But there is definitely, sometimes you'll be working with an improviser and you'll see that kind of that switch flip from where it's all of us mentality to, okay, now it's me time mentality. And that's something you have to be conscious and watch out for in your own performance. In my performance, I try and be aware of that.
Same. And I'm as guilty as anybody about that, where I definitely walk off stage and I'm like, man, I did not make that person look good. I really was like doing my jokes or doing my thing or whatever. Yeah. And I got to be better about helping them and making them shine and then look good. And I mean, that's obviously the if the whole world operated like that, obviously the world would be a better place. But certainly improv, it's a team game. But you've seen it. You see shows at Groundlings. You see shows at UCB. We see shows at SAC Theater or the Asylum in Boston or wherever the playground. Like people pop. Different people we gravitate toward. We're looking at other people for whatever reason. They're talented. They look like us. They feel like us. They act like us. They don't act like us. They look different than us. We're like gravitating towards certain performers. We'd like to see certain performers. And some of that is like, I just, that performer has a certain gravitational pull. They're just like so funny. They can't be denied, right? Like it's such an old reference, but like Chris Farley, he wasn't to be denied, right? He's just too funny. We can't help but watch him, at least most people. Same thing with us out here. And we have to like be aware of like, what does the show need? Does it need a little bit more? I got to take the bull by the horn. I got to kind of get in there and do whatever my thing, or do something that's going to be a laugh, or do I need to be more supportive in this moment? And we all need to be, it's a constant juggle and a constant gauge, just like it's really just like any relationship. Like, what does the relationship need in this moment? But usually it's collaboration. The more you improvise with people too, it does start to really feel like a relationship when you're going up week after week with the same group of 5 or 6 people. You have conflicts that you come back to time and time again. And you also have a shorthand to get through those conflicts in an efficient manner. Yeah. And then you have roles that you kind of fall into because you're with the same group all the time. So you kind of play these same roles, whether you like it or not, same as your relationships. And you get hurt by certain actions. You feel like you're not being heard. And it's a lot like a relationship because it's a group of people. It's your friends. You work with over time. It's like a work relationship. It's like all those things. And it's a constant, I've got to listen. I've got to pay attention to what's going on here. Listening and communication. If you can believe it, communication and listening are the two biggest things here, like they are everywhere. What did you say again? I missed that. No, I'm kidding. You communicated that very well.
Meow. Meow. I'm a dumb little kitty cat. Meow.
What the hell are you guys doing?
Oh, meow. Mr. Sprawlings makes us act like little kitty cats every day at 10:45. But it's only like for a minute.
Yeah, not a big deal.
To wrap up here, let's go back to Cedar Grove in Milwaukee. Basically, I want to know, do you make it back to Cedar Grove or Milwaukee? Or do your friends from there come to visit you? And how does the old crew react to you popping up on their favorite shows and whatnot? I definitely go back. I'll be back for Christmas. It's sometimes I get back to Milwaukee, but I always go to Cedar Grove, but then I try to get some time in Milwaukee, but my family's in Cedar Grove. So that's right. I got to go there because I want to go there. But then I'll also try to set aside a couple of days to get into Milwaukee and see friends. I haven't done ComedySportz for a bit, but I want to the next time I'm home. I don't know if I will. And I haven't done it for, like I said, for a while, because I just have other things I want to be doing when I'm there. Even though I love improv, but I get to do a lot of it, so I don't have to scratch it itch quite so much. And also, I don't do short form as much anymore, and that's a muscle that I haven't flexed in a bit, so I'm probably a little bit scared. But I do get to go back, and I do get to see my friends, and I love it every time. We try to get together, same with my family, and it's really wonderful, and I'm always grateful for that time. Truly, I get to laugh with my friends that are in the comedy world and not comedy world, and they all make me laugh just like all our friends do. And they'll come and visit me, my buddy Nate, who I've been friends with since junior high. And now he lives in Texas. He came out this past Friday. We went to a UCLA game. We hung out. We went to dinner. It was awesome. I loved it. It was so great. So I'm always happy when my friends come out. And then when I'm on TV, if they get to see me, sometimes they'll send me texts or a screenshot, wherever they'll say they saw me, or else they'll put it on their social media, wherever. They're supportive of it and they're kind about it. Is it like, wow, our world, this is our whole world? No, they got their own life going on. They got their own stuff going on. And luckily, thankfully, not that I'm,
on a show constantly all the time, but I am on enough to where it's not such an event where they're like, we saw you for the first time in 1,000 years. Finally, you did something. I get to do something here and there. So that's not as the first time I was on something was like a bigger deal, to me, to have family and all that stuff. But now it's still good, but it's like, okay, he's earning a living and he's great. He's not homeless. So that's a plus. We're happy for that.
You're the person they trot out to brag to their friends, but they don't really like, okay, we got to watch Dave's on tonight on the Connors.
Yeah. They're like, well, okay, Dave's on for what? 40 seconds? I think we can skip this one. We'll move on. But they are happy. They do think it's fun because it's also different than what they do for a living. Just like I'll talk to them about their jobs because it's so different than what I'm doing. They'll talk to me and ask me questions because it's a different lifestyle. Like it's not as, it doesn't have as much structure as what they have to do for their 9 to 5s. Yeah, but it's great.
All right, Dave. Well, thank you for staying with me an extra 40 minutes today.
Tobolowski'd it.
You Tobolowski. You beat a Tobolowski. You have gone past Tobolowski, I think.
Oh,
so,
yes.
Finally,
so sorry to all the listeners for droning on.
People have been wanting someone to surpass Tobolowski for years. You finally done it, Dave. Congratulations.
Oh, I beat the way bigger name and the person that people like gravitate toward way more. They're like, oh, this other guy that we don't have never heard of, he did longer than Tobolowski. What did he have to say that was more than Stephen Tobolowski? Either way, not worth it.
Ironically, 15 minutes of it was talking about Stephen Tobolowski. So
that's where he got it. Yeah. He didn't mention me once.
No, well, actually, right at the end, he was like, I was on this show. No, I'm kidding. He didn't mention you. Sorry, Dave. But if people not only want to mention you, but come see you perform around here in Los Angeles, where can they check you out at?
They can check me out. I'm in the last Friday of every month over at UCB in my group called Bangarang. I've also got some shows coming up at UCB called Town Meeting. And then I'm randomly throughout the month at random different shows. So they'd have to check the old calendar or follow me on Instagram at Dave Theune, Dave Theune, not .com, just at Dave Theune. And then I'll usually promote it in an annoying fashion so they can see that there if they want. That's like really the only place I'm really promoting it that much. I guess a little bit on Twitter, but also I barely ever look at Twitter. And also, what is it now?
Yeah, I've noticed I tagged you in like 3 things and you didn't like any of them.
Oh, no, I haven't opened it in a minute. I have not opened it in a minute.
At first, I thought Elon Musk was standing between us, Dave, but I'm glad to hear that it's just you didn't make it onto the app.
I deleted it a while back, and I was like, I'm done with this thing. I got to like simplify my life. And then a few months ago, maybe a year ago, I was like, all right, let's put it back on, but don't post anything. Like maybe promote some shows, but don't look at it much. So it's like a concerted effort to not look at it or deal with it because, like I know, like a lot of people, I never feel better when I get off of social media than before I got on it. It always makes me feel worse because I'm often comparing, and that doesn't do anyone any good. So it's crummy. So if you ever see me post those and you find yourself like comparing yourself and going, I'm not doing what he's doing, know that I'm feeling the exact same way, and I'm also comparing myself and not feeling good. So we're all doing it. We're all posting our best stuff and making other people feel bad. We're all doing it.
Excellent. Well, definitely make sure you guys follow Dave if you want to be miserable, because he just said he'll make you miserable just like him, which will be perfect.
Absolutely.
And then everyone's on the same level.
Yes.
All right, Dave. Well, we want to thank you very much for joining us today. I want to thank you guys for watching too, both on the live stream over at my Bill Meeks YouTube channel, or if you're watching the DVR over at the Where I'm From podcast YouTube channel. Definitely encourage you to subscribe to both of those if you don't already. I also recommend, if you like the show, go over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review, an honest one. It can be 1 star saying Bill sucks. That's fine. We just need some numbers on there. So go over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, leave a nice review. And you can find links to the show notes, the live streams, the finished episodes, everything at billmeeks.com/whereimfrom. Well, that does it for this week. Join us next time when I talk to somebody else about where they're from. See you soon.